the mind becomes interesting. I see it as something that is there for the entertainment of an observer.
If you come to a fork in a path, you either take your left or your right.
I don't know much about evolution, right, or like the way it happened or how we eventually came to this point. I just feel like generally, like how we got here and everything is just like a big, a big joke.
One of the biggest advantages of having a mind is that you're able to observe your environment. You're able to orient yourself to what the situation is, and then work out the solution and effect it.
You see pigeons, for instance, and if you're driving,
I was driving.
you want to try to like run the thing
Wow.
over.
I don't
Like
try.
I'm just saying that people do it.
Victor,
and
that's
it's
you.
not
That's
as-
just you.
It's not as
That's just you. That is just you.
It's not as criminal.
Yeah.
It's not as criminal. It's not something we punish as much as we punish you trying to do it to a human
human
being.
being.
Do you understand?
I think sometimes we human beings forget that we are actually animals, and for good reasons. No other animal has dominated Earth like we have, to the point of actually being able to destroy Earth as we know it. And this difference and this dominance is really because of our brain, our mind. On the very base level, we still do everything every other animal does. Mr. Niger D. Movement, respiration, nutrition, irrigation. We eat, poop, mate, reproduce, and die, just like every other animal. But some of these basic things have become complex for us. We have to cook our food, and typically with more than one ingredient, different recipes and dishes, probably because we get bored after eating a particular food repeatedly for a period of time. Mating and procreation isn't just that. There's a whole lot that goes into it. There are even a ton of books and content out there about sex and how to satisfy your partner. There's something that came into my mind now, and it probably should remain there. How to spice things up so that things are not vanilla. JavaScript, look at all the libraries and frameworks it has. We weren't satisfied with the vanilla version, and we kept on spinning new adaptations and modifications to it, to the point that you probably have a JavaScript library for every letter in the alphabet, which means more things to learn to remain relevant in the job market, so that you have enough money to eat whatever you want, and also probably to maintain an advantage in the dating and mating scene. Point is, thanks to our brain, we have a tendency of making things complex. Oh, and by the way, thank God we did not stop at Angular, because no. So, in this episode, the question is the human brain a blessing or a curse?
So today we have like extra heads, because extra brains, because we need all the brains we can to discuss whether human brain is a blessing or a curse. So I have, clearly there's Victor here because he's trying to save data cost, and then there's and then the extra heads that are joining us are Ebuka Ibokwe and Charles Onunze. For us to start, I'll have to take some initial poll of some sort, to make it interesting. So Victor, do you think it's a blessing or a curse, before we start getting into our reasons and whether it makes any sense, whether this is even a good idea?
I wouldn't use either word. Maybe when we start talking more, I will now explain. But basically, just to keep the post simple, I wouldn't use either word.
Okay. Is there any other person that will probably not use the same word? Festus.
I'm fine with saying it's a blessing. It's more a
as
blessing
expected.
than a curse, in my opinion.
Charles.
I think middle ground. Like I think, like Victor said, I feel like it's a mix of both. You could say it's a blessing. You could also say it's a curse. So yeah.
So I'm getting a lot of middle ground. I'm supposed to be the only one that owns the fence. So Ebuka, please don't tell me middle ground. Let's go extreme.
I think middle ground it is. It's what it is.
And everybody's sitting on the fence except Festus. Funnily enough, Festus is the only person that actually thought that it's going to be like, yeah, it's a blessing. Like, that's good. Like, while I was preparing this, my mind was Festus is going to say, he's pro all of these things we are doing.
I think I could challenge Festus on that point.
Oh, that would be nice.
Fantastic. That's what I'm talking about. Yes, let blood flow. Okay, so let's start from the very, 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 very beginning. Why was the human brain necessary? Like in surviving Earth, this place that we've called home, why was it necessary in the very first place? Ibuka?
Okay. I don't. I would say it was necessary. I would say that if you come to a fork in a path, you either take your left or your right. Neither is necessary. You just chose one. Maybe circumstances there allow you to choose only one of them. But whatever choice you make, there are consequences to the choice that foreclose whatever lies on the other path. And then nature, you respond to impulses in a way that your evolution has conditioned you to. Say if you are an animal and you encounter a flood, for instance,
Which I've
you have to you you're an animal is on the ground and you encounter a flood, and you have two options. You either find a way to swim, or you wait for conditions to become better. Like you wait for dry land to appear again. Whichever choice you take, whatever follows from it, maybe if you choose to swim, then you find yourself when the water dries, you start finding water. But if you choose to maybe retain your legs, when the flood passes, you remain on ground. But then that means that if flood is something that's periodic, that comes and going now and then, then you face another challenge of always having to suffer the inconvenience of water when you already have legs, rather than the choice which you would have made, which is maybe growing things or losing your legs so that you can become a whale or a wasp, something like that. So I think that what we decided, if you can say we have decided something in the past, made us who we are, and that also decides how we respond to whatever thing we face. So that's what I think.
the path that we chose, when I'm using we loosely, of course, just like you, it's evolution, yes.
Mhm.
So if
Yeah.
was it necessary to maybe solve a particular problem at that point, such that that path we chose, if we did not get a brain, like a brain this good or this developed, we would not have been able
Mhm.
to tackle whatever it is that we faced in that particular path we chose.
Um, I don't. It's not a question that has a direct answer because we could have chosen something else, but our life will be different from what it is now. So it's a bit like what's it called in programming where you have branched decisions which leads you to another branching.
If else statements.
Yeah. So if you have this, if then you take this one, and then by the third statement, you've forgone several statements that if you chose any of them, you would lead to a different place.
Yeah, I don't think I don't know much about evolution, right? Or like the way it happened or how we eventually came to this point. I just feel like generally like how we got here and everything is just like a big a big joke. Like and yeah, it's like I feel like it's still one of those ways to try to explain things, right? Okay, this is how this was necessary, and then therefore we developed this brain and all that. But I mean, for me, I it just ends up becoming funny because it's like, what problem were we even trying to solve? That what problem did we have that other species didn't have? That made us get to this point. Like, I don't feel like fundamentally the like as a species, like existing in this earth, there is nothing necessarily that you are doing specifically that will make
Differently.
you develop something brain. Exactly. So, like, what was the reason? Do you understand? Would be my question
Yeah.
because you wouldn't tell me it was a food problem or like because every other species eventually figured out how to get food without having to have this much a brain, right? So,
Yes.
it's one of those things where it's like, was it just like one of those random things that just happens, and then we just figured out, okay, we have this brain, then what the hell do we do with it? Do you get so? And then we started like making just like basically utilizing it. It's still like a means of survival at the end of the day, right? So it's like we figured out, okay, this is what we have, might as well make the best use of it. Do you understand? So whether we have done that is an entirely different question altogether. But yeah, I just feel like I really don't know the answer at the fundamental biological level. Um,
Yeah.
but I don't see if it was really necessary for us to have this much brain to survive in terms of like fundamentally, like to just eat, sleep, and do all these normal living things, activities, right? So But yeah, like I just feel like it's one of those random things that just happens, and then we just have to adapt. It's basically so.
Deal with it now. Okay.
Yeah,
I should have made this caveat or disclaimer at the very beginning. There's always this debate at where is the mind different from the brain and all that. For the sake of this argument and for the sake of this conversation, I am going to merge the human mind, the human brain together, and even the every other thing that makes us human, makes us actually very distinct from other animals. Let's just even take from that very small um, abstraction of the very thing that we do commonly with every other animal. Like comparing it to those other animals, are we better for it? Victor.
Thank you, Charles, for that expression. That the way we've gotten here is a big joke. As I love that. Um, it is a big joke. Now, so first of all, the first thing I want to say is comparing it to even other animals. Um, I don't think we can even say. I think it's arguable that other animals also have minds,
Yeah, yeah.
and I'm not sure I can even say that they are even better off with their type of minds. So,
Interesting. Okay.
so that's by the way.
No, this will not be by the way. This point he made now cannot be by the way because I think it hinges on a lot of things. Like you can't assume that other animals don't have mind, and you can't. That's the only comparison. They are like the closest things we can use to compare whether or not we. Because I will. So it will be interesting to note your point for saying that.
Okay. So I'm talking about minds generally. Maybe what I would say about minds would now, how do I put it, throw light on that of animals. Maybe. So if it doesn't, then we'll explore it
All
further.
right. All right. Cool.
So like I said at the beginning, I wasn't going to use the word either blessing or curse. What I would say is that um, I don't think the mind is necessary, considering that we're already existing. I don't think the mind is necessary for the object. I think it serves the observer more
Interesting. Okay.
than the person who has it. If we're supposed to be here to do stuff, do you understand? Then um, our type of mind, I don't think it's necessary. So if what I'm supposed to do is wake up in the morning, um, eat, go somewhere, walk, um, come back, eat again, have sex. Let's just put it as that simple. Do you understand?
Yeah.
I don't think I need a mind for that. Like, I just need to be programmed in a way that I do that.
Yes.
Do you understand?
Right.
I'm looking at robots, for instance, the fact that we just do all those things. The mind becomes interesting. I see it as something that is there for the entertainment of an observer. Because then it's the mind that brings chaos.
Yes.
It's the mind that brings everything you could consider like maybe entertaining for
An onlooker.
an onlooker, an observer. Do you understand? So you have a bunch of people who are running around, hitting their heads against the wall. Some are getting it right, some are not. We don't know who is getting it right and not. Do you understand? So that's how I see mine.
Human beings are the only kind of animals that have dominated this world as it is now, as far as we can tell. All the animals have brains at some level, but it's the fact that ours is able to get us to do things much more complexly, and stemming from our last conversation, that is like the main problem. So that is why I'm now saying, is it really a blessing or a curse? It's whether how ours is built, whether that is a blessing or a curse. That's one way to
If
put
if
it.
you look at the human being
Yes.
who is an individual,
Yes.
the fact that the person does what will you call complex stuff, building a skyscraper. Building a skyscraper does not really solve your problems. Like it doesn't make you as a human being, it's not like it makes you
Go to some next level.
yeah, exactly. Like you understand, like it's not like it makes you get to some next level where you don't have any problems anymore, you don't have chaos. Do you understand?
Yes.
I think we talked about this thing a bit in the last one.
Yeah.
So the fact that you're doing complex stuff does not really transform like
Who you
some
are.
basic things
You are still
about
who
the
you
human
are.
being. You're still who you are. Do you understand? So in that light, I don't think I don't think that the fact that okay we can kill a goat, but the goat can we are we are powerful enough to kill a goat more than the goat can kill us. Maybe means that okay, our mind is now a blessing because there are a lot more things that are affected by our mind than just that singular act.
Active.
Just the way you function, like as a human being. In terms of being a blessing or a curse, I would say it is neither. Good. Is the way I used to put it before. It's both the solution and the problem. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So it
Interesting.
helps you solve problems. It helps you create help. Interesting. It helps you create even more problems. Do you understand? Then even when you want to solve those problems, it's still your mind that you use to solve those problems. So when that's why I said the fact that you're here, you have a mind. Your mind creates problems. Somebody will say it's a cause. But then you want to get yourself out of that problem. You still use your mind.
So it
And you
cancels
get
out.
your and it cancels out.
So it starts to lean towards unnecessary. It's even
Now,
that it cancels out.
unnecessary is now like on a higher level for me.
Okay.
So now the thing is on the higher level, meaning like assuming there's a creator.
Okay.
Let me use it to simplify.
Okay.
Assuming there's a creator, and for some reason, we have to have this bunch of people who are here. Do you understand? And they are supposed to do things. I imagine that now the only reason you would want to introduce minds or free will or those things like that is to your own benefit more than it is the benefit of
Of the
that
object.
person
Yes.
you're
Okay.
creating. Do you understand?
Yes.
Because if what you want is for this person to be digging a hole every day, what they need is
The ability to just dig the hole.
yes, and whatever is pushing them, you don't need to be
Yeah,
thinking
yeah.
about it.
Yes.
Just be
Just dig
digging
the
that
hole.
hole. Do you understand? So, but then when you now put in the mind, it seems to serve you, who is the observer or the creator, more.
Okay.
I don't know if you get
Yeah,
the thing. So,
absolutely, yes.
on that higher level, do you understand? Is where I'm saying it's not necessary for the object.
For the owner of
Do
the
you
brain,
understand?
yes.
And it seems to serve the observer or the creator more.
Okay.
Do you understand?
All right. Yeah, Festus. I
Yo,
imagine that you have many objections.
yes, I do. I have lots of them. I have lots of them. Okay, so for me anyway, I think when in the beginning when we're asking whether it's a net blessing or a curse, things that came to my mind were things around something around the whole thing of if you were going to do a pros and cons sheet of there's a mind and you draw a table and on one side there's what are the pros of a mind and what are the cons of a mind. I would say the pros outweigh the cons. That's why I feel it's a net blessing. And I thought that this was rather obvious. That it wasn't something. Yeah, I did. For people who have minds, I thought it was rather an obvious. It's sort of like asking, is oxygen a net benefit? Yeah,
At least that's what you
that's
thought.
how
I
that's
can
what I
argue
thought.
that.
Okay, so
I can actually argue that, but
it's
go
fine.
on.
Everything is up for argument. So
Fair point.
when I heard Victor speaking, I think Victor is taking a lot for granted. Okay, I
Oh,
felt he was
okay.
taking a whole lot for granted. For instance, he said, I'm going to paraphrase. He said, I don't think building the ability to build a skyscraper solves our problems. And I was like, really? Do you know how the sort of problems we solved all the way to skyscraper? Like we started from living in a cave in the bush in the jungle where the sun and the rain can beat us, right? And we would probably fall sick and die like goats do. And the fact that we had minds was we figured we're able to observe our environment. So
Oh,
saying things like we're able to have skyscrapers doesn't quite so doesn't the ability to build skyscrapers doesn't solve the problem. That was something he said, something along that line. I'm not sure this is an exact quote, but that was because I know when he said it, I wrote it, and what I wrote was building a skyscraper doesn't solve the problem? Question mark. Really? That was what I wrote. So I know that it's somewhere around that line. However, he
Okay.
said it's fine. But the point is, when you say things like that, it comes from this place of, oh, we have minds, and you just take it for granted that we do. Okay, so it's you have to compare the sort of being that has a mind and the sort of being that doesn't have a mind, and what we can, the sort of things we can achieve. So we're able to the one of the biggest advantages of having a mind is that you're able to observe your environment. You're able to orient yourself to what the situation is, and then work out a solution and effect it. Okay, and I don't think that's a small feat at all. If it was too easy, almost every other organism would probably have it, but they don't. They live, they die, and their life, generation to generation, kind of remains the same. So we will, human beings. Let me share what I think are the net positives. Okay, I think a good way to approach this is I'll share what I think are the benefits of our mind. Okay, or what our minds have given us, and then maybe someone can show me all the cons, and then we can weigh what these cons are like compared to, and so we'll start with a mindless automaton. Okay, that's what we're comparing, remember. So don't do this thing where you tell me, let's say for instance, I say, okay, we solved, like something Victor said somewhere along the line, that we solve problems and then they bring more problems, and therefore it's sort of, one cancels out the other, and I don't think that's fair. So you would have to be comparing. What you're doing is you're comparing a mindful individual who has solved a problem. Okay. Let's say I've solved the problem of getting to places faster by harnessing crude oil and refining it and then using it to power vehicles, and I can move things quicker. That's a problem that has been solved. Now, the problem that creates is maybe um, it starts affecting the environment, it depletes the ozone layer. That's a problem created from one solved problem. Okay, I don't think it's fair to say because you solve this problem and then there was an effect. Okay, and that effect therefore means that if you didn't have a mind, it sort of cancels each other out. No, what you would want to compare is if you were a goat who couldn't even figure out how to move on, is that better for the goat? Okay, or if a goat even has a mind, like just an automaton, something that doesn't has no mind. Okay, just a mindless thing. I think it's you can we can say one mind to another mind, and how this mind has made his life easier. And when you solve a problem and there's an effect that the problem causes, which the solution brings about, which is another problem which you did not foresee, and you still get to use that mind to solve the next problem. I would say that is a very powerful tool that you have right there. Okay, and it's not that you will still have had these problems regardless of whether you had a mind or not. Like, whether you had a mind or not, you would have had very basic problems. You'd have had problems of your being at the mercy of nature. That's a problem. Okay, you'd have had that problem regardless of if you had a mind or not. The fact that you're able to bend nature to make nature more comfortable for you is a solution. All right. Now, let's say you were out in the wild. Maybe the lifespan of human beings would be 30 years, and human beings want to have more life. And so, by using our minds, we're able to extend our lifespan, our average lifespan, to about 50 years, 60 years, 70 years. Okay. That's a solution. Now, it could well be that now that we've solved that problem, it came at some expense of maybe where I don't know, whatever, some expense or something else that we didn't see when we're trying to solve that problem. That's another problem, and we still get to use the same tool to solve that problem. I think that tool in itself is a positive as opposed to not having that tool, because without that tool, you would not have been able to solve any problems in the first place. I don't know if that makes sense. I think that's a simple way to sort of summarize where my position kind of is. I'll leave it there, and maybe if we speak more, we might break down into more of the nitty gritty and things like that. So yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. Uh, Victor has is kicking. to put it lightly.
Victor is literally kicking you.
No, no, no. Well, I
I'm
was
kidding.
making fun, but okay. So he has like rebuttals, and
Well, this is just enter me today. From saving data cost to kicking
Daniel is not doing you. Daniel is doing you dirty. Forget it.
okay. So
Yeah.
the first thing is okay. The very first thing you brought up about how building skyscrapers does not solve human problems. So if building a skyscraper, I didn't say it doesn't solve humanity's problems or people's problems. Do you understand? What I meant is that if you meet a guy who can build a skyscraper, he's not extraordinary. Like it doesn't
Really?
mean that because I can build a skyscraper now,
Yeah.
I don't experience feelings like, let's say, jealousy, fear, um,
Yeah.
um, um, loss. Do you understand? So that's the point I want to make. I didn't say building a
No, but
skyscraper
that
does
doesn't mean
not
it's not
solve
extraordinary.
humanity's problems. I'm saying that
Yeah.
it's not. Well, okay. So now we're going to okay. Let's use that one. It's okay. So what I'm just saying is that it doesn't take him away from things like fear, loss, the things that we experience from the mind. Do you understand? Because it can be the skyscraper. Now that's number one. Number two is talking
I'll
about
need to comment on that
okay,
later, sir.
let's assume that as we are here now, Daniel just drops dead. Now, whatever of a problem we might think it is because of the minds that we have. Because we
Okay.
walk every day. We walk as you're walking now. If you see a dead snake, it doesn't really get to you. Like, okay, this is somebody's mother, or this is a living thing's mother that is dead. Do you understand? So if really, so
Yeah.
I'm trying to use that comparison now that most of these things that we think are our problems stem from the mind. I don't know if you understand.
Okay.
If this
I
whole
get you.
thing, for
Yeah.
instance, now we talk about lifespan. Okay, hey, somebody's life, the life expectancy in Nigeria now for a male is 75 years, is now 50 years. Do you understand? What makes that thing a problem is the mind that we have. So if
Not
if it's
quite.
that if it's that
Not quite, but continue.
okay, yeah, okay, fine. So let me just make the point. So now, um, why is it okay? So we've come to accept that, for instance, if you die at 80, if life expectancy is 80, 100, it's okay.
yeah, okay.
How come? Like, why is it not 500?
Okay, well,
Do you get it?
yes.
So that's my point.
Yeah.
It's the mind
Yeah.
that is running these things, so to speak. Do you understand? If you're introduced into a world where somebody is born today, the person dies tomorrow, and everybody is okay with it. Like, yeah. So I'm trying to. That's why I use the example of seeing dead things. As you walk on the road, you see dead things a lot. Do you understand? You see pigeons, for instance, and if you are driving,
I was
you,
driving.
you want to try to like run the thing
Wow.
over.
I don't
Like
try.
I'm just saying that people do it,
Victor,
and
that's you. That's just you.
it's not as yeah, yeah, but
Just you.
it's
That is
not
just
as
you.
it's not as criminal.
Yeah.
It's not something we punish as much as we punish you trying to do it to a human
human
being.
being.
Do you understand? The point I'm trying to make about the mind is all those things we think that are problems we will still have. Do you understand? Most, if not all, because now maybe I've probably somebody might possibly come up with something that is not connected to the mind that is a problem, fine. But it is the mind. Okay, let me give you a funny example. When I was 7, I used to do this ridiculous thing where I would walk to work drenched.
This is the internet. Do you want this
Like
out there?
like so I would like so what happened was I can remember when I started working, and then the first day it rained, I stayed back home, went to work late, and it was such a big deal. Like rain is not an excuse for you to not come to work. Like
You will be a
I got
horrible
to
boss.
realize that I got to realize that
Employee
rain.
of the century, man.
You understand? Like I got to realize that. Are you
Your
serious? So
boss must
rain
have loved you.
is not reason for me to not come to work. And my boss was like, "What do you mean by rain? Like rain is not an example." Do you understand? So that was my first experience. So subsequently, I didn't let the rain stop me. Now, such that there was this day when I was serving that it started raining midway and I just walked to work. Now, in my mind, like, waiting concern me. Do you understand? It's raining, it's raining. Everybody should understand that it's raining. So I had this colleague who I was working with, a girl. The girl she was more uncomfortable about me being drenched than I was about the
Being
drenched.
dressed.
Like she was like, "What kind of thing is this? Like, why are you drenched? Like, you didn't have an as in, after trying to address she ended by saying, "Don't try this thing again." Oh." Like that statement made me understand, like, this thing is actually like more. So okay, so I started like, okay, it didn't happen again, like trying to. But my point is that it got to her more than it got to me.
It got
Now,
to you,
but
yeah.
look at that kind of situation. Do you understand? For instance, somebody can walk to work drenched and not send. Do you understand? And there is somebody else who cannot. Now,
So you
to me,
effectively took out the mind, so to speak,
to
for
me,
that rain
it's a
situation.
mind thing. Do you understand? It's a mind thing. So some of these things that we think are problems, I would think that most of our problems are down to the mind, which is why I said, if you're supposed to die, for instance, do you understand? Like if as a human being you're supposed to die, what makes that death tragic is the mind, because people die every day. Human beings die. Like somebody will die and you will not send, then another person will die and it's
You
getting to
said
you. Do you understand? So those problems that we are saying, okay, they are inevitable. Do you understand? My contention is that most of them, if not all, are tied to our mind, and it's that same mind that we are talking about. So I agree with him to the extent that, okay, if you are existing, do you understand? It's neither a blessing. Why? What I've not yet bought, maybe I'll think about it more, is the idea that it is net a blessing.
okay.
Because I still think that, okay, most of those things that you are solving, do you understand, are still created by that mind. So
Yes.
so it doesn't yet look exactly like net blessing to me, because if it's a blessing because I am solving problems with it, most of those problems are still
As a
created
result
by
of
this
that.
mind. So it's not like problems are coming irrespective of the
Oh,
mind,
yes.
and I'm using the mind to solve them. So most of them are tied to the mind. Many of our problems are actually like ego problems. If you think about it, most of these things that we say, okay, you observe the environment and then you try to solve, most of them are even ego problems. For instance, wearing clothes. For instance, wearing clothes. Like if you want to think about it now,
I am
if
thinking
if you
about it.
want to walk, if you want to go and buy something, really, at least under this weather, do you understand? Even the idea of wearing
It's
clothes,
a fucking hot weather.
it's an ego thing.
Yeah.
Because what is it that you even have that nobody? Do you understand? Like you can, it's an ego thing. I don't know how else to put it, but it is clearly an ego thing.
Yeah.
Um, um, how do I put it now? You wanting to, I'm trying to look for other examples, but let me not take too much time. But I hope I have, like, maybe a lot of these
Made us
things
uncomfortable
that we
about
think
ridiculous,
that we
yes.
think are core problems.
Yeah.
Most of them are tied to our minds. Most of them are ego things. Do you understand? Living in a
Fair
thatched
play.
house, like in this day and time. Do you understand? And you want to live in a skyscraper instead. It's more of an ego thing than it's
Yes.
even. Do you understand? So that is my point. The mind is the one that actually creates these things, and then we tend to actually solve them. Then again, sorry, even this mind that we're using to solve all these things. Festus was saying that I'm taking things for granted. Festus, you too, they use all these words. Whenever I'm talking with
It's not
Festus,
about using things.
he will always say
It's
something like, he will
it's
always
a
say,
fair description.
for lack of
I
a
don't know why
better
you're
word,
taking it as a.
prominent.
It's
For,
a
for
fair
lack of a
description
better
of
word,
what you're doing.
for lack of a better word, let me use attack. For lack of a better
For
word,
lack of
but
a
I know
better
it's
word.
not
It's
malicious.
actually not
I'm
an
just saying
attack.
that
He's
So,
actually
He's
not an
saying it's
attack.
not malicious, but for lack of a better word.
so whenever
No, no,
Festus
no.
hears me,
He's exactly saying what he's saying. He's like saying it's
so
not an attack, but for lack of a
it
better
feels
word, it's
like
an attack.
it feels like
Digga, just say what you want to say.
But then I think that okay. So now trying to use it with him too. I think that
Okay.
even me too. Okay, I even told him that even me too, when I listen to him, I get that same impression of him that he also takes things for granted. It's just that I'm not usually the first in our discussions to say it.
Say
He's
it.
usually the first to say it. You understand? So I think that he's taking for granted the limitations of the so-called solutions that we bring up. Do you understand? It's just like in the last session where we were talking about we were talking about technology and all that. And I'm saying it's not just about you, for instance, feeling convenient that okay, now you can you can call somebody instead of writing a letter. We're looking at it in terms of like humanity as a whole. So it's not just about you personal. Do you understand? So now sometimes I feel like maybe a lot of things go well for Festus that he doesn't seem to notice other people who it's not going well for. Do you understand? So, what I would say he takes for granted is even the solutions that we think we are bringing up for our problems, a lot of them are limited. That's that thing that you think that okay, you can look at your environment and observe your environment and come for a solution. I think that if you want to be honest with yourself, you would admit that that's your observation, that your assessment of environment is limited. This life, there are a lot of things going on that if you start paying attention to them, you will go crazy. The vicissitudes of life, the variables moving around are so much that for you to function,
You have
you
to
have to
ignore.
pay. For instance, we are here sitting in this house. What's the guarantee you have that this houses fall? Do you understand? What's the guarantee you have? No, the person that built this house like well, that this house is not going to crash. What's the guarantee you have that a plane will not fly into this place? Or if you get what I'm saying. So I'm saying that in life, a lot of variables are acting that sometimes we feel this good about ourselves that okay, we are doing well, we know how to solve our problems. People come up with solutions every day, and those solutions like disappear in front of their eyes. Do you understand? So these are the things I think that sometimes I wonder, like, is Festus even aware of these things that happen? That somebody, these mishaps that happen to people, in the middle of that, your solution that you thought you have, in the middle of that thing, that problem you think that you are solving, that you observe your environment and you said, okay, I think that if we are more honest with ourselves, we should admit that we are not that bad. Like I don't know as bad as we think that we are. There are a lot of variables that we don't control. There are a lot of variables that fall into our place. There are few that fall out of our place. So that thing that we think we are really doing with our minds, in most cases, it's not only our minds that are doing. A lot of other things are falling into place for us. Do you understand? A lot of other things are like are kind of happening to actually make things come together for us. I can remember one day I asked a guy, how did you become rich? There's this guy I asked. I will never forget the first answer he gave me. He told me, well, for one, we're not living in a war-torn country. I don't know why the guy said that thing. Like, it's an experience I've had. I'm asking you one day that have you not heard somebody say
Say
something
such a
that you
thing,
never
yes.
thought of? And I don't know why that was the first thing the guy said. The guy said, Imago, in his whole answer, he was trying to play down
His
his
efforts.
role
Yes.
in him being rich. He told me a whole lot more stories. Do you understand? Even from childhood about how things. So he was more like even talking like it was luck.
Yeah.
But at least the very first one he told me was that at least first of all, we don't live in a war-torn country. Do you understand? So that's the thing. Like even those so-called solutions that we think we're observing now, these are things that can easily just fall apart tomorrow from what you can see.
Typically as a result of
Your
our own
mind,
mind
thank
as
you.
well.
Even that mind thing I'm talking about, your mind is too limited to even observe your environment and know like the most optimal or the best solution to you just do the best you can do. Your mind is too you do
Okay.
your mind is too limited to know all the things that would affect what you in fact that's a contention I'm putting on the table here. No matter what problem you want to solve, your mind is too limited to assess everything you should assess that could possibly affect that your solution. And so
All
that's
right.
it.
Wow. From our nakedness to our personal ego to man. In contrast to other animals, we observe the, so to speak, objective reality. Yes, and we respond to those objective reality. You have your surrounding, you have rain, you have sun, you have the things that we can really see, so to speak, and then we observe just like every other, the natural laws that we observe just like every other animal. But because of maybe who we are, we also have created certain other things that um, we also observe. You have humans creating something like beliefs and belief system. You have religion, you have money, you have sports, you have government, you have ideology, you have laws, you have systems of government. So it seems like we go beyond just that very basic thing that every other animal has, and we add our own reality. Isn't that like an added layer of complexity that probably isn't like necessary? Charles.
For one, I feel like we human beings don't know when to stop, and I feel like a couple of other things also like influence these things because I don't think generally like collectively human beings want to complicate things. I feel like for the most part, people want to solve the small problems that they have, and when they do solve them, they are fine with it for a while. But what happens is I think one person just becomes curious and tries to convince other people that this is a solution that would benefit them, right? And then everybody kind of has to channel into those ideas. And I feel like
Is it more about conviction, or it's more like a there's also a need that, or some desire, to borrow Festus's word, that is seated, that can also be aroused by someone else, such that I now maybe create something else that is very interesting, and because you have the same kind of human mind that I do, you also find that interesting, and you now have to buy into that kind of thing.
yeah, sure, someone creates something and tries to get other people to buy into that thing. And us buying into that thing, obviously, is just that human desire of like, oh, this is a new thing that we can now focus on, right? Every other thing is now old news and stuff like that. But I feel like we don't approach these things with the same mind as that which created it. I would really love a very big conversation about capitalism. I feel like a lot of these problems that we have,
Yes.
No,
I
it's
feel
coming.
like a lot
It's
of
coming.
problems. I feel
It's
like a lot of
coming.
problems that we have, right, are just the
Yeah.
fact that somebody wanted to make a quick buck, right, and not really that we are trying to make humanity
Solve
move
something.
forward and all those things. Like I feel like all those words are things we just say and try to believe them. Again, most part, right? Like human beings would be okay with being bored, having things to do, doing them, and having some free time. I don't think that generally is a problem. The mind is there, but at the same time, the mind can also be calm and not just and find peace. Like I feel like most of the things that we even do, if we think about our daily lives, like I can remember the time where with my friends, we were all working in tech, we work late hours and all that stuff. And I was like basically saying, telling them like what is really the end point of all this. And then they're like, oh, retire and chill. Like you went from chilling to working to go back to chilling. Like that's basically what you're trying to tell me, that you are working this hard to get this life you just left from, really, right? Obviously it might not be
It's
the
not that
same life. It's
simple. It's
probably
not that
I
simple.
know, I understand that it's not that simple. I understand that it's not that simple, but it's like it's almost like another cycle where it's like we're trying to this endpoint is just trying to get this amount of so much time and rest, right? Like that's like the endpoint where I'm not doing so much, and generally
With
that's my
money.
experience. Yes, with money,
So,
sure.
of course, that's the point. That's the point.
Sure,
That's the main point. Chilling with
sure.
money. You were chilling without money first. You want to chill with money. That's why you're suffering. Like, guy.
No,
which
but I'm
is
saying
which is
just
even
general
funny.
point.
Which goes back to the other point of money is something that we created as a result of our complex mind. It's something that we created, such that you now need to chill, but you need to chill with a means of survival, that something that was as basic as hunter gatherers. Well, I don't want to say basic, of find fruit and eat the fruit or kill an animal. You now have to do this. You now need money that is responsible for getting this food that other animals are just maybe barrier. You now find, sorry, my non-Igbo audience. You just walk around and you eat grass, or maybe you're a lion in the savannah and then you now find an antelope that you're going to eat. You now eat the antelope. Do you get? So it's now beyond. It's now you've now created this kind of reality that is money that we now have to, that is now responsible for catering something that we supposedly say is basic. Festus, I see you shaking your head.
Yes, I am shaking my head. We're going back to this. There's this sort of simplification we're doing that is just not fair. And here's what I mean, right? It's just not fair. No, no, no. So when you say you just want to chill, you just want, to hunt and no, not even hunt, like have meat, all right? So you're either going to hunt. Hunting is not that easy. Someone's going to do it, man. That person will want a reason to do it. Even if you can do your hunting, a time will come in your life when you get old and you can't do your hunting. Like you
Yes.
want to be able to have leverage to get people,
No,
to
sure, that might be
have
an
people
oversimplification
do.
of things.
That's what I meant. So when you're saying, like when you were saying you want to chill, now you're working so hard so that you can chill again. The money thing makes a huge difference. And let's not even think money. All right, forget money. What we really want is we want. It's always going to sound weird, but not weird, just funny. We want the things we want. So how do I put? We want the things we would want in the future to happen, if that makes sense. So we have wants now. We know that when we're 50, 60, 70, we would also still have wants. And we want a way that those things we will want then, okay? A way to ensure that they are taken care of. Yeah. And the way to do that is if there was no money, let's even if there was no money, we would have found a way to trade favors with each other. So that it's not like if I do this for you, when your son or your children show up and I'm old and I can't do this thing anymore, they will do it for me. So I will do it for your father now. Do you get that kind of thing? That would probably have been the sort of arrangement. This is a very crude thing, but
Yes.
we want to be able to sort out our retirement.
How do other animals, how do they solve this problem?
I think animals that are social, so tribes of chimpanzees, tribes of wolf packs, hyena packs, lion prides that have a semblance of family tend to. I don't know so much for things like chickens, for instance. Okay, but the those that move in packs tend to do. That's what the pack kind of does. So your chances of survival are better when you're as a lion you're within a pride. Okay, so when you can't hunt, some other people, you know, might hunt for you, and you get to share in the game.
So, what do you think? Do you think the human brain is a blessing or a curse? Do leave your thoughts in the comment section, and I'll be hanging there for a while and responding to your comments. If you also enjoyed it, do give it a like and share to people that you know would also enjoy it. And in the next long form conversation like this one, we'll be discussing AI and the value in suffering. So do subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know when that goes live. Well, thanks for watching and catch you in the next one. Peace.